This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
So today we're chatting with digital nomad Sarah Gregg of the Power to Reinvent. Now, you might remember Sarah from June of last year when we were talking about reinventing ourselves and embracing change in our lives. And during that podcast, Sarah shared with us that she was writing a book. So today we have Sarah back, and she's going to be telling us all about her new book, Find Your Flow. Welcome back, Sarah.
Hi, it's so lovely to be back. I feel like just before we were chatting, you're like, it's just like chatting with an old girlfriend. So I love this, just coming on and having a lovely catch up with you. And I can't believe it was June last year. That feels like yesterday I was talking to you. Time is crazy.
I know, and it was so exciting because you were talking about just starting to write your book.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking of starting to write a book. So you're sort of a year ahead of me. So it's really interesting to be able to follow your story and, learn from what you're doing.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. Amazing, wonderful, scary. All the key components were definitely there. And yeah, it was released in January 2020. So yeah, it's still like a little baby now, just like going off into the world and finding its audience. But it's lovely to see people read the book and for it to resonate with people and to know that it's made the impact that I really wanted it to have.
So you mentioned fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely something when I started toying with the idea of writing a book. I definitely started having those feelings of, well, who are you to write a book?
Yeah.
Did you go through anything like that?
Yes, definitely. So it was a bit of a surreal experience. My publisher of the book, they reached out via Instagram. They're based in New York. I travel. I'm currently based in Copenhagen. And so I never had a conversation with the publisher. It was all via email. The contracts were done via email. I got my edits via email. And it didn't really hit me that what I was writing was going to be shared into the world until I had the draft of it, until I saw, the colors and the pictures and how it was going to be presented. And I don't think I've felt so much fear around that. And it was kind of unexpected because it took me about a year in total to write. And I thought I was ready and I was prepared and I'd done all the work. And then when I saw that visual and I thought, oh my goodness, people are going to buy this. People that I don't know are going to buy this. People whose, I can't influence their judgments or decisions. So the control aspect side of my personality of, I could give someone the book and then explain it to them and, I guess prop them up so that they would give me a good review. That lack of control, that there would just be these strangers reading my book and then sharing their opinions with it, brought so much fear. Also the fear part of my identity of who am I to be a writer? Like, am I really a writer? Do I feel like a writer? Is this what a writer feels like? And who am I to present my ideas to the world? And that was very, very much there. And it kind of hit me like a bit of a wall. It came out of the blue. And but I think it's just a natural part of any experience. And often I looked at other writers and I reached out to them actually to ask what their experiences were, because you don't really know until you're in that moment. But it's common, it's natural, it's normal. Fear, I am learning very, very much, is just my companion on this journey. She is my constant friend. She's my nervous little buddy who, I just have to put my arm around her every now and again and be like, you're okay. We're okay. We can do this. Just settle down. And I have little conversations with her.
And, I probably, or, correct me if I'm wrong, at least for me, when it comes to the book I want to write, it's based on a very personal part of my life, where I went through incredible pain, but also had, incredible triumphs through it all. So writing the book, I'm sharing a piece of myself, and a piece of myself that I haven't actually spoken into the world so much yet. So it's not, and I got that impression with your book. It's not just
Yeah.
a book. It's a piece of you. And there's pain and challenge in what you went through as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're putting these things out into the world in the hopes of helping other people, but you're also standing naked in front of the world.
Yeah, and I think that was a really scary part of the book, because in 2016, when I'd made the decision to, quit my job, sell all my stuff, start my business, and I didn't even know what business I was going to start. I had a dream of being a writer, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue about anything. I just knew I wasn't happy. But I hadn't really shared the full story with friends and family. They didn't really know how unfulfilled I was, how busy my mind was, how uninspired I was by life, how, I wasn't depressed enough to like see a doctor or need medication, but I certainly wasn't in a good place in my life. And so when the book came out, that was another aspect of the fear side. Was I realized the people closest to me would read it, and actually they didn't necessarily know how I felt at that time, because back in kind of 2016, and building up to that point, I definitely would categorize myself as that person who maintains that cool, calm, and collected persona that they have life figured out and that everything's going great and it's totally under control. But inside, the inner critic is running wild. They don't really know what they're doing. Like, I didn't know, what am I doing? Like, what matters? Is this really what matters most? But sharing vulnerability is quite hard for me to do, because I feel it's a weakness. And even when I do have those moments of vulnerability with people, and massively have improved on this, I would share it and then retract it with like, but it's really fine and I have it under control and you don't need to worry about me, because I'm the person that solves my own problems. And I don't even know how sometimes to invite that offer of help in. And so when the book came out, it was like, wow, people are going to read this and they're really going to see me for who I am, and not necessarily the persona back then that I had presented to the world. And so that feeling of just that nakedness, that's really exactly your words and your experience really resonate with me. Was this was who I really was. And at the start of the book, the publisher asked for a dedication, and I wrote to all those brave enough to become who they truly are, stay courageous. And I couldn't dedicate it to anybody else, because that felt so powerful, that the journey to be who you are and to be seen who you are takes real courage and real vulnerability. However, when you do that, you open up conversations and you realize that there are so many people in the world who feel and experience the same inner emotions as you do, but mask it with a smile or the illusion that they're okay.
But isn't that what a lot of us as women do?
Yeah.
And we use that 4-letter word, and it begins with F, and it doesn't
Yeah.
rhyme. It doesn't rhyme with fire truck. It's fine. We use that word fine. And I'm guilty of that too, where, even with my husband, I've been married 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
I will still put up that front and say, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Because I don't want to admit that I don't have my shit together, that I am struggling. And, I have all these questions and this vulnerability. And it's really hard. But I think as women, that's just what we do. I'm not sure where it comes from. But and that's one of the quests that I'm on, and everything that I'm doing is like you, is to open up those conversations so that it is okay to talk about, hey, I don't understand this. Let's start the conversations about, my inner critic and who she is and where she comes from. Let's let it be okay with being authentic and vulnerable.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, when I released the book, what surprised me was how many friends, really good friends, friends that I've been to school and university with, who I've known for a very long time, how much when they read it that they opened up to me and said, I really resonated with that. I actually feel the same. And how richer my friendships have become through the process, because you realize that there is an inner world that we all experience. And I think the term fine is because it's hard to explain. How do you explain when your outer world looks together? You have a nice house, you've got your job, you're financially secure, there's no one problem in your outside world that you can say, that's wrong. Like, the thing is broken in my kitchen, and I don't have the money to fix it. Like, we don't have a problem sharing that because it's a thing. But trying to bring sense to your outside world, your inner world, sorry, where it's like, I should feel happy, but I don't. That's harder to explain. And so I think fine is just that word that glosses over it, because to dive into that with somebody when you don't necessarily have the language to put around those emotions and you're trying to explore them for yourself is really, really difficult to do. But I think it's something that we all need to get better at. And having those little vulnerability circles, you don't have to share your vulnerability with everybody, not everyone's going to get it. But I'm definitely learning and implementing in my life those trusted people who I can say, this is going on, and they can just listen. Like, I don't need you to solve it for me. Like, and equally, I'm learning that when people come to me with an issue, that I don't have to give them the answer, because they're not looking for it. What they're looking for is just the space for somebody to be like, yeah, like, I hear you, I see you, and that's enough. That's all we need to do.
And that's the important part, is to be heard.
Yeah.
Because I think it's common for women up to this point to feel that their voices haven't been heard.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really key thing. And then going back to what you were saying about your outer world looking so fabulous, I always relate it back to the you that people see on social media.
Yeah.
Social media, Facebook, Instagram, what a lot of people are posting is their highlight reel.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing, oh, sure, that's a great family picture, but you're not seeing, the fights, the arguments, the disagreements, and any of the problems sort of leading up to it. You're looking at a 1-second piece of somebody's life, yet we're judging that person based on that 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And judgment is natural. We judge and compare all the time, and our brains are built to do it. But we do need to be careful of it, especially when it gets out of control, because I think part of that social media world and the highlight reel does prevent you from being vulnerable, because you feel like you're the only person that experiences those emotions. When I didn't feel great, kind of back in 2016, and was really struggling and thinking like, I just don't feel like life is fulfilling. I'm like smiling on the outside, but I'm completely frazzled on the inside. But because all my friends, their lives look great, they were happy with what they had, it makes it even harder then to have that conversation, because you feel different and you feel misunderstood and you feel like they're not going to get it when you share it. But I think something amazing happens when you allow yourself to be seen, not only for how it transforms the other people and the courage that they see in you, how it can create that ripple effect, but also how great it feels just to be yourself and just not to have that big wall up, or, to gloss over everything, and, to have all the list of 10 things that are going really, really great in your life to share over dinner with friends, but just to be honest and be like, this bit's good, this bit's a bit crap right now, but, and just let it be without making the excuses or saying that it's going to be fine, or, just to be you, authentically you, which I know this podcast is very, very much about. That is the greatest journey and our greatest challenge in a lot of respects, just to be who we actually are.
So true. Now, I want to jump into your book, because it all, for me, everything changed when I changed my mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear a lot of successful people refer to, if you want to own your day, you've got to own your morning. And the mornings are the most important piece of anything that you do. And I think you capture that so well in the book, which, by the way, it's so beautifully done.
So
It's
beautiful.
a very, I want to say it's a beautiful piece of almost stationery,
Yes.
the way it looks. And it's just got this, two of my favorite colors, by the way, are it flows, but it just has a beautiful feeling to it. So it is a very lovely book just to own, but it
Mm-hmm.
also has some really great information. So why don't you take us into what flow is?
So my journey with flow started really because I felt this discontent, but I also felt this desire to still achieve things in my life. But I recognized that achiever side of me had got a little bit out of control. And the formula that I was using for happiness, when I look back at the patterns of my life in 2016, when I moved everything and, headed off, the pattern and the formula I'd use for happiness was really me plus A equals happiness. So in other words, me plus when I drop that weight, when I get the promotion, when I achieve this level of success, then I will be happy. And what I noticed was, I got a kick out of achieving stuff. I love that. I want to make sure that my time on earth is, impactful, and that I use my gifts and talents, to the best of my ability and fulfill my potential. However, what I was doing was really just bundling my happiness up in a ball and like throwing it up to the top of the mountain and like shouting like, I'll see you when I get there. And then, going on the climb, getting to the top, only to realize that there was another mountain to climb and I had to come back down. And so whilst I was achieving things and life looked, good on the outside and, I had a good career, what was missing was that sense of happiness and fulfillment. And my background's in psychology, I can be quite a practical person. Like I like simple things. And so I started to look at, okay, if this is my formula and this is my conditioning and this is kind of what I've operated on, how do I unlearn that? And actually what's a better formula to replace it with? And that's when I discovered the psychology of flow, which has been around since the 1970s. It was discovered by a happiness-obsessed Hungarian psychologist called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Huge, extensive body of research. But what's great about flow is it combines your ability to fulfill your potential, but also feel fulfilled. So to give you an example, it's healed as a secret to happiness, because when we're in flow, the byproduct is we feel happy. But it's also really tied to achieving more in less time, because when we access flow state experiences, our productivity, for example, is proven to increase by 500%. And so when I read this, I was like, so I kind of get to have both. Instead of throwing my happiness up the mountain, it can literally journey alongside of me, and I can feel happy as life unfolds. I can feel that sense of alignment as I enjoy the present moment, but also take that action to ensure that I'm building the future that I want. And because of that, all of life threads together, and I experience what psychologists call a unified flow, where life just flows with effortless ease. And so that's really how the journey to flow started. And because flow has a formula, unlike the me plus A equals happiness, which doesn't really work, flow has a proven formula, which is if you have a clear goal, in other words, you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. You have an optimal level of challenge, so you do it to the best of your current level of ability, whatever that looks like for you. And you know what progress looks like, so you have that immediate feedback. Then you will always be able to access flow. And so I took that flow formula and was like, I'm going to put it into a journal system. I'm going to start my day, and I'm going to make sure that each day when I wake up, I'm integrating those core conditions with intention, and that life will have more ease and more flow. And I won't sacrifice my happiness for my dreams. And in fact, I can have both.
And the important thing is that we start our day this way. And
Yeah.
I know it's hard. So many, we've created a lifelong pattern of waking up to an alarm clock. You get up, your feet hit the ground, it's exercise, shower, getting ready for work. It's, you're just going down this list of to-dos,
Yeah.
getting your day started. And we're running on autopilot. And there's a lot of people that would sit there and say, I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through
Yeah.
the same thing. And then you go through the exercise of just set your alarm half hour earlier. You're like,
Yeah.
I want to wake up half hour earlier. But it's, for me, it's gotten to a point where I can't start my day without my routine. And I worked it out. My routine basically takes up 1% of my day, 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And that 1% creates a massive difference in the day. And at the end of, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you start seeing those little changes
You
along the
do.
way. And they're little to start with.
Yeah, but I think that's often that's the golden nugget that people miss. When you enter kind of the self help kind of like spiral, you read a great book, you feel really enthusiastic, you're like, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to wake up at this time, yeah, I'm going to fulfill all my dreams. And then by like Wednesday, your inbox is full, all those habits that you've just naturally created over time, are still there. By Saturday you're like giving up, and then by Sunday you've ordered like a different book, but because you're looking for that one big aha moment, like, and they're great when you have them, but life is a series of O's. And if you can learn to kind of be like, oh, that's interesting, oh, okay, oh, I did that, then actually you get the ahas a lot quicker. And your mornings are so important. Like, I was never really a morning person. Like, I would wake up, I wouldn't even exercise in the morning. I would wake up and just scroll on like Facebook. Like, I'd watch cat videos, like all the stuff that you shouldn't do. And then I'd like run out the door to work. So I was always like 2 steps behind myself. But the thing is with habits, again, like, like flow, it has a formula, cue, behavior, reward. And so when you understand that you can make your habits work for you, and they just take a little bit of time to change, and you can be patient with yourself, it's not going to happen overnight, then gradually you can become more of a morning person. Like, now I do way more in the mornings. My mornings are like my sacred time. I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I have my coffee, I do my journaling, I do some exercise, and it feels like free time. It makes your day feel so much longer. But more than that, the science behind how you start your mornings is really, really clear, which is your morning mood dictates your emotional trajectory for the day. So if you are waking up and you're consuming the thoughts of other people before you first check in your own internal state and see how you are, and if you read something that upsets you, like in science, you're 27% more likely to still be in a bad mood 8 hours later, even if that was just like 5 minutes of negative news first thing in the morning. So the greatest gift and the greatest mood enhancer you can give yourself is to just be very careful with how you start your mornings, because that kind of small window of time does dictate how the rest of the day flows.
And I think somewhere along the line, nobody told us that this thing we call life is a journey.
No. Why did
And
they not
it's something, I was talking with a girlfriend about that the other day, and I said, I wish somebody had told me at 18 that this is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think we almost get caught in the trap that it's a race,
Mm-hmm.
and we forget that it's a journey. And, not to sound too corny, but every day we have the opportunity to start again.
Yeah.
So if you begin a practice, ultimately, if your journey is to become, a better version of yourself, if every day we get up and we have that choice to step forward and become that better person, sure, there's going to be days that you wake up and you're like, nah, I feel like shit. I didn't sleep last night. And I am just like, I just need to make it to the end of today. Hands down, been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But we also should not beat ourselves up for it.
Yeah.
The next morning comes, it's okay, let's try this again. And it's the keep, some days you have a really big step on your journey, and other days it's a small step.
Yeah.
But the important thing is you keep stepping forward.
Yeah, we're always evolving, and I think the reason why I love the journal system and journaling, you know, regardless of what you do, because it's really important that you find the right thing, you know, that works for you. But what I love about the journal system is it's like my little sanctuary. It's my check-in spot. You know, it's each page, like when I finish my journal and I put it away, it's really lovely looking at it. Like each page I showed up. Like each page I showed up as the best version of me, you know, that day. It might not be the perfect one, like a lot of days it isn't, you know, but I showed up with really good intentions. And I've learned a lot about myself through using the nighttime reflection piece, which is the last part of the journal system. You know, and equally how you start your mornings is important, but also how you close up and wrap up your day is really important. And in the journal system, because I write down, you know, 3 things that didn't go so well, that's really a space for me to be vulnerable and honest with myself, you know, like just to kind of put it out there, put those worries down there, but also to notice trends. Like, for example, Mondays, I just, you know, I'm over ambitious with my time. I'm like super enthusiastic, but I never achieve what I want because my expectations are too high. So I started to notice this rhythm to my life, which was every Monday typically was a bit crap. It started off great, but by the end of the day, I was like, no, you didn't do enough. This is terrible, you know, and so noticing that pattern and that rhythm just enabled me to change my Mondays up a bit. It's like, Mondays is low expectation day, like, because if I'm going to get off to a good start of my week, then I know that I need to keep my enthusiasm in check and just, you know, keep my expectations low and get the week off to a good start. So I think what's lovely is when you have that journal routine, you learn about yourself and it helps you be that authentic self, and it helps you recognize the patterns of your life. It helps you recognize some of those unconscious behavioral loops that you're operating. You know, the 5 times that you said that week that you're going to, you know, do a bit of writing or publish a new blog or go to the gym and you haven't done it, you can start to like get curious and think, okay, well, why have I not done that? Like maybe I need to change up my routine. And you can get curious. But it's that living with intention then, and treating each day as, you know, it is corny, like, but it is true. It's a gift. It's a blank page. It's your chance to start over again. You know, you just leave the past behind and you take the lessons forward with you. And when you do that, then it is the journey, and you're not constantly confused about where the past year has gone and what you've done and why are you still in that position, why are you still in that relationship, you know, why are you still in the crappy job that you don't like, you know, you're not there because you've taken those small steps each day and you've tracked your own progress in a really loving way.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys is having a formula to whatever your journaling practice is having that formula. And I know going back 10 years or so, you know, hearing about journaling is important and it solves all these problems in your lives and it does all these great things. But you just sit down, you're like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? Dear diary? Like, what am I, 12?
Yeah.
And for me, it was really hard. Even, you know, when, you know, through The Secret, they've talked about daily gratitude. I still found something like that. Is not that I'm not grateful, but it just felt really odd sitting down and writing, I am grateful for, you know, my feet, my eyes, and the roof. You know, something felt awkward about it. So for me, having a formula, a process to my journaling practice, it was very easy to get into that rhythm.
Yes.
And, you know, then, you know, once I sort of go through the formal part of my process, I find it much easier to ask myself those questions and pick through what my thoughts are at that point in time. And sometimes you sort of come up and you're like, oh yeah, that was interesting. And then other times you're like, holy shit, I never thought about that before. Or
Yeah.
is that why that's happening? Or is that why I do that?
Yeah, because how often do you check in with yourself during the day? Like, I mean, if I removed the journaling process, I could probably go, it would probably only be when like the disaster happened, the inevitable disaster that was unfolding that I was totally unconscious to, you know, that would be the point where I go, wait, what? Hang on, like, how did I get here? Like, what just happened? Okay, I need to look at this. but because we don't ask ourselves those questions. But with journaling you can, and I think the term journaling can put some people off, because it's like, how do I do it, what do I, it's writing down, with a pen and paper. It's really nothing more than that. And a bit like mindfulness, there's no right way to do it per se. It's just your space, like just your time for you to think about, how do I want today to go? What does today look like? How do I want to spend my time? Am I using my time on the right things? And then just to do that sense check-in, like, okay, yeah, everything's great. Or actually, hang on a second here, that's interesting. I need to dive a little deeper into that, because we need to do that for ourselves. We need to make that a priority for ourselves, to check in about how are we really doing in that inner world.
And you hit on a really important point there. And for me, journaling helps me listen to those whispers that life gives us. Before I did my journaling practice, before I got into any of these changes I've made in my lives, I wasn't listening to the whispers. And the problem is, if you don't listen to the whispers, then suddenly they will hit you with a 2x4.
Yeah.
And that's when you hit that crisis point that you were talking about, is like, all of a sudden you're like, what in the am I dealing with now? So journaling, and that little part of our day that we dedicate to ourselves, it just helps turn up the volume on those whispers, so that we're dealing with things as they come along. And in some cases, you're digging down and resolving past hurt and trauma and fears. You're turning up the dial on the whispers, so that hopefully you're avoiding that 2x4 down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And it will never protect you from suffering, kind of bad things happen. However, it does make you better prepared, and it helps you, like, I love that, it helps you understand yourself a little bit more and listen to those little whispers. It's, we all have that friend, right, who comes to us and there's been like a disaster and everybody's seen it coming, right? And she's like, I don't know how I got here. And you kind of agree with her, but secretly when she leaves the room, people are like, how did you not see that? Like, everyone else could see it. I think journaling is like your opportunity just to objectively observe, what's going on in your life in the way that you would a friend.
For sure. Now, I've heard from a lot of people that during this, we'll call it a global pause that we've all been on, no matter where you are on this planet, there's been a pause. And I've heard a lot of people talking about getting a tap on the shoulder or a whisper. Their inner voice is questioning and pushing them to explore something more of themselves than they had before. And I think it's really important that if people want to start to turn up the volume and strengthen that inner voice, definitely go find Sarah's book, Find Your Flow. Now, where can people get it, Sarah?
So if you head over to, I've got a website called findyourflowthebook.com, you'll get a full list of retailers. But generally it's available on Amazon. It's available in Canada, America, UK, Europe, pretty much kind of everywhere, I think. But if you want a full list of retailers, you can just head over there, or it's available in some bookshops as well. So you can pop into your local bookshop and see if they stock it.
Yeah, no, I pre-ordered mine before it came out. So I got it I think it was delivered on the release date.
Yeah, and you took that lovely photo with your pens that matched.
Yeah, so I have that. So I must admit, I have it here, and I look forward to the opportunity when I actually get to meet you in person and have you sign my copy.
Yes, definitely.
So before we close out, is there any last words of wisdom you wanted to share?
I would just say enjoy it, like remember it's a journey. And I think like that is kind of the key bit of learning. And, you know, even during this period in lockdown, when everything's changing and the world feels different, we can sometimes get back into those old behavioral loops. I will be honest, I've certainly kind of found myself, you know, going back a little bit, you know, to the trusted patterns of achievement. But life is that journey, you know, so enjoy it, take the pressure off, you know, release yourself of those expectations, just get curious about the different experiences that you can have, and try journaling. Like, that's the best bit of advice, is just try it, because it is so simple. It's so easy, but it really can be life-changing, particularly if you find it hard to be vulnerable and open up a little bit, or you're not really sure if you're using your time in the right way. Then this can be like a lovely starting point for you.
Very wise words. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me again today. And I look forward to our next chat. And until next time, thank you for listening. And as always, I'm sending my virtual hugs. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.
Life